Good afternoon. I'm Sterling, and once again, you're learning American English with me. And today is have, has, had, recognizing the difference between these sounds in conversation. What do they say? Please do subscribe to my channel. Just click on the subscription box to get automatic notifications from YouTube of all my new English learning videos. I'm making this video for one particular student who asked me to help him to learn to identify the differences in the ending consonant sounds of the words have, has, and had. As a native speaker, I easily hear the differences, and I didn't realize it could be a problem. But I do have exactly the same kind of difficulties when I speak Spanish with local people here in Guadalajara. Sometimes what sounds obvious to them is not obvious to me. Why? It all has to do with the patterns of sound that your brain gets used to hearing. What I mean by that is that in the language you're most familiar with hearing, you hear many words spoken in the same order repeatedly. And you're more familiar with what you expect to hear than with what you actually hear. You spend a lot of time predicting what people are going to say, and you don't realize that you do. That's one of the difficulties in listening to another language. And this one student told me that he has trouble distinguishing the difference, telling the difference between the ending sounds of have, has, and had when they're used in conversation at normal speeds. I'm sure this is a common problem, and I started wondering to myself why I recognize these words in speech, even when they're pronounced badly, but a Spanish speaker finds this to be harder. And I realized I don't recognize the sounds easily only because of my ability to detect the sound difference. Rather, it's also because I already know which sound patterns are going to happen. I already know from the context of the subject what the speaker is talking about, and so I know what he is most likely to say next. So can you learn to do the same thing? Yes. And in many other different ways with many other sound and word patterns. Recognizing the sounds of have, has, and had is a good place to start. And your understanding of other things like this will come in time, and you'll learn that the way to understand these things is in context through a lot of listening and talking in conversations. So let me point out first, there is one sound difference that's important. The letter V in Spanish is different from the letter V in English. It actually sounds slightly different. The sound of V in the word have is not pronounced in the same way that a letter V is pronounced in Spanish. In fact, in Mexico, the V sound is almost identical with the B sound. In other Spanish-speaking countries, the letter V lets more air through when you pronounce it, but it's formed in Spanish by putting the lips in exactly the same way as the letter B is formed, but to let some air through. Not so in English. It's not the same sound. It's important to notice how different the American V sounds from the Spanish V. The V sound in the word have in English is not formed in the same way with the lips. And in fact, it has a more unique sound that's much different from the V sound because of the things the mouth does when the V is pronounced. The English V is pronounced with the lower lip meeting the upper teeth and letting some air through that space while adding your voice to that. Video is good for that. Both the word video and watching me on the video. Watch my mouth every time I pronounce a V, like in video or have. And listen, the sound is different. You can distinguish. You can tell that it does not sound like the V sound in Spanish. English, V. Spanish, V. Put them into words now and watch and listen. In English, very, vertical, volume. Now watch and listen in Spanish. Ver, vamos, venir. You can not only hear the difference, you can see the difference. And recognizing this difference is one important factor in being able to distinguish between these sounds when you hear those words, have, or had. Now, the second factor that's going to help you recognize the difference between these sounds is word order pattern. And knowing the contractions is also part of the word order pattern. It's common to say I've in place of I have, you've in place of you have, we've in place of we have, they've in place of they have. It's also common to say it's to represent it is or to represent it has. Likewise, it's common to say she's to represent she is or to represent she has. And it's common to say it's to represent it is or to represent it has. So how do you know which word combination has or is the contraction represents? Well, the answer is context. What is the conversation about? Is it in present tense, or are you at least expecting to hear present tense? It's time to go now. It is time to go now. Your expectation of hearing present tense means you expect that what's being said is it is, he is, or she is. Is the conversation in past perfect tense? Or are you expecting that it is? Did you hear a gerund? A word ending in ing? Then the contractions probably mean she is, he is, or it is. And that's present continuous, as in, or future. It's going to rain soon. It's going to rain soon. He's going to make dinner. But if you hear ing, the contractions could mean have, but you get some more hints, some suggestions about what to expect from the word order patterns again, because the word order pattern is going to be different if the contractions mean have. And this is how grammar ties together with pronunciation. Like in, he's been doing that. He has been doing that. Because if you have an ing form that's not preceded by a form of to be, like in he is finished doing it, for example, if it's not a form of to be, then you're going to see have been or has been or had been in front of the ing, like in he's been doing it. She's been eating all day. She has been eating all day. She had been eating all day. So that brings us to had, and let's cover the word had. You can also learn to identify the ending sound in the word had by watching the person speaking. Watch the mouth. Had. And by knowing the word patterns of the tenses that the word had appears in. So when you hear combinations of have had, has had, and had, you need to know that those are the only orders of those words you ever will hear. And the last word is always had, because had is the participle and always comes last. And so then you have a choice of have, has, or had for the first word. So if the conversation is in past perfect tense, or you suspect that it is, then you'll find that both words must be had. If the conversation is in present perfect tense, or you suspect that it's going to be, then you only have two possibilities for the first word, have or has. And you can listen for the pronoun to tell which one it is, because if it's he, she, or it, of course, it must be has. And all of that is just another good reason for you to be able to know how to recognize these different tenses, past perfect tense, present perfect tense, because indirectly, knowing what you might expect to hear because you understand the grammar is going to help you with understanding what you hear. So grammar and pronunciation they're very connected with each other. Okay, at the risk that this is already too long, let's listen to some paragraphs and sentences and watch my mouth and think about word order patterns that can help you identify whether you heard have, has, or had. Okay? Let's go. I'll go right into the paragraph. I haven't had anything to eat all day. It's about time to go find something. Maybe I'll have a look in the refrigerator. But I think it's almost empty anyway. If I hadn't forgot to go, I would have something now. Maybe I can just go out and order something. But I don't have any money. I'll ask my wife if she has money. She probably does have money. She hasn't had anything to eat all day either. And I've had it. I've had it with always being out of things. Food, money, everything. She's pretty good about having extra money. She really is. I just waste my extra money. So let's look online and see what we can find that we can have delivered by Uber Eats. I like this place here. They've got great lunches, and I went there before. Anyway, that's enough. I think that's enough to get the idea. Listen for context. Watch the person speaking. Think about what you expect them to hear, and that's going to help you to identify what the sounds are. And watch that V sound in English. It's not the same as the V sound in Spanish. Leave your comments below or comment in the Facebook group, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thanks for being with me. Bye.